Spoiler alert, don't watch if you don't want to be spoiled on this show. So anime isn't something I'm particularly knowledgeable about. I didn't really watch it until my girlfriend started showing me a bunch of series she figured would appeal to me, mostly stuff with cute girls. And one of the shows that we watched together somewhat recently was the Quintessential Quintuplets. In short, it's about a high school boy, Futuro Uesugi, who's been tasked with tutoring the quintuplet Nakano sisters who are in danger of flunking out of school. And it's established immediately that in the end, he will marry one of the 5 girls, but it isn't revealed who until the very end. Now, this isn't going to be a detailed review or recap or anything, but I can tell you that I really did love this series. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't, but the ending was admittedly a hard sell for me. In the climax of the series finale movie, Futuro is told to pick one of the girls to start dating, because at this point, each of them has gotten open about their crushes on him, and in the end, he chooses Yotsuba. This completely blindsided me, and I didn't know how to process it at first. And maybe that shouldn't have happened to me if I had pieced together clues or looked out for foreshadowing, but even still, I was rooting for Nino and Miku the most. I think the two of them wanted it the most, especially with Nino being the first to explicitly say, "I love you" to Futuro. Plus, I'm warming up to tsundere characters now. You can thank I'm in love with the villainess for that. And Miku, I just thought was the cutest in her interactions with Futuro, even as far back as season 1. Plus, I think shy girls are cute. Always have. And let me just say, the scene where Miku walks into Nino's room to tell her it's over now broke my heart so badly. I also would have been fine if he picked Itsuki or Ichika, of course. They both had plenty of cute and humorous moments with our protagonist, but in the end, he chose Yotsuba, the choice I least expected and sadly least wanted. And from what I can tell, a good chunk of the fanbase wasn't happy with this choice either, but speaking from my own perspective, it wasn't because I hated Yotsuba, far from it. I like her character, and she does have her own arcs she goes through in both seasons and the movie. I just didn't think it was quite enough character development compared to the massive amounts of development we were getting with Nino, Miku, and Ichika throughout season 2. I even remember saying multiple times while watching that it didn't feel like Yotsuba had as much affection for Futuro as the other girls did. She very much felt like a side character compared to the others, including when it was revealed she was the one Futuro met as a child in Tokyo, one of the long-standing mysteries of the show. Plus, probably most importantly, I was not happy with how devastated this choice made the other 4 feel. Nino and Miku, of course, took it the hardest, whereas Yotsuba would have been able to cope with rejection a lot better. She wasn't expecting to be picked, and even encouraged Futuro to pick one of her sisters instead. And yeah, I guess the very nature of this show means that most of the characters were gonna get their hearts broken no matter what, but I still did not expect to feel as bad as I did about the final outcome. I wouldn't say I hated this ending, but it has made the whole journey feel a lot sadder to me in retrospect. But even though this was my first time going through the show, my girlfriend Christy had already seen it before we started dating and knew the ending. She asked me before starting the movie what my order of preference was for each of the girls ending up with Futuro. I answered Nino, Miku, Itsuki, Ichika, and finally Yotsuba. So she was prepared for me to be disappointed, and even admitted that she had some mixed feelings too. However, she also told me some things that helped me appreciate the choice and see it in a new light. Something that I thought would be worth sharing to help cope if nothing else. And just so we're clear, I'm not going to be taking the manga version of the story into account because I haven't read it. And for this video, my aim isn't going to be to break down any author intent. I am not smart enough to do that. This is primarily coming from personal experience and what makes us happy, with other aspects of the story mentioned as they become appropriate. Also, this is going to draw from my own real-life relationship, and it may seem very personal, but I have gotten permission from my girlfriend to share some of these details, and she has looked over the script and is okay with everything described in it. Plus, I'm not going to be sharing absolutely everything, of course. So long before we got to the movie, Christy told me that she did see some traits of Yotsuba in herself. There's her peppy, outgoing personality, and there's her need to be a people pleaser, as we see in moments where she tries to fill in for injured players in school sports teams. She's very encouraging, especially with her pep talks about taking on tasks without any regrets, one of the main characteristics Futuro appreciates the most. But that is admittedly kinda superficial. The real important connection in my mind comes in Futuro's confession. Even though Yotsuba was in love with Futuro, she didn't want to accept his confession at first because she didn't think she was good enough for him. She runs away out of fear of disappointing not only the one she loves, but her sisters as well, while we see flashbacks to her childhood, how back when the sisters were all forced to look exactly the same, she was the most eager to stand out and feel special. She tries on her now signature ribbon bunny ears, but then feels undercut when Itsuki starts putting stars in her hair. There's also when she wanted to do the best in school out of her sisters, but found her grades slipping when Miku started outpacing her. Yotsuba always feels like a failure, just short of special no matter how hard she tries. And honestly, for much of the show, I didn't really see her as that special either. I overlooked her, but the fact that I did overlook her for so long paradoxically makes her a fitting choice, because it is her finally getting some recognition and affection that she's been craving for so long. Maybe even more validating since she never got as underhanded as Ichika, Nino, or Miku did to try to win Futuro's favor. In this moment, she finally gets to feel special. And most of these were the aspects of the ending Christy brought up to me as feeling very close to home for her. When I confessed to her, we had already known each other for over a decade and trusted each other well, and because of this, she was afraid of hurting me, and she needed some time before she was ready to reciprocate. There was this fear both of us had, really, that we weren't actually deserving of love, because each of us had gone through our own share of struggles related to it. In my case, by just not having any prior experience aside from rejections. And at first, we were afraid of messing up. We were afraid of hurting each other's feelings, scaring each other away, not being good enough. Even just the act of confessing to her made me want to run away in fear and shame, much like how Yotsuba did. And yet, we've still been able to have a happy relationship together for almost a year at this point. But starting out, this self-doubt and inferiority complex is something we both needed to overcome. We needed to accept that we are deserving of love and that we are special and important to the other, even when our inner voices refuse to believe it for whatever reason. And we've made it work because of the connection we've made over the years, much like the months Futuro spent clashing heads with and learning to understand and identify the quintuplets. Christy has always been a good friend to me, and has even admitted that she did want me to find someone to have a nice relationship with. She just didn't expect that it would be with her. These parallels were enough for me to say out loud to my partner, "You're my Yotsuba." The person that I see as special, and that I hope will feel it, even if they don't believe that they are at first. Also, being cheerful and cutesy like Yotsuba helps. That isn't to say that this suddenly became my preferred outcome thanks to this perspective. It just gave me a way to appreciate this ending by tying it to my own experiences. I still vastly would have preferred if Futuro got together with someone else. Heck, I could even compare parts of Yotsuba's development with that of Miku's, namely how she's shy and how we see her struggling to open up to Futuro despite her obvious feelings for him, and how bettering herself not just in school but also in cooking was a major through line of her character, and how winning Futuro's favor would have validated that growth and made her feel seen. That result would have made me happier, I'm sure, but evidently it wouldn't be what the author intended. Sure, I can look for fan-made endings that pair Futuro up with the other girls to give myself a little bit of closure. I can play the visual novels on PlayStation to explore alternate routes, but personally, that can only really get me so far. I can't pretend the story happened differently, I don't like to feel ungrateful, and I don't like saying something isn't canon because I don't like what we're given. But one thing I don't feel particularly bad about criticizing is how the other girls kinda get the shaft in the end, at least in terms of their love lives. I didn't like how they they had to live with the heartbreak of being rejected by Futuro, even apparently up to Yotsuba's wedding day 5 years later. Maybe it's realistic, but it's an anime. Realism be damned. So Christy and I did come up with some headcanons for partners they could eventually have that we don't think would disrupt the existing ending. Nino could end up with a good-looking bad boy with a secret soft side. I think this would be fitting for her because in late season 1, she does fall in love with Quintaro, a disguise Futuro accidentally takes on during a class trip. And honestly, that arc was one of the reasons I wanted Nino to win in the end. I thought it was cute in a roundabout way. For Miku, she could meet a shy man who wants to better himself as an artist. At first, he's a bit of an amateur, but he buckles down to get better at it over time. The two could bond over their similar journeys to perfect his art and her cooking, until they finally find the courage to tell each other how they feel. You could even woo her by drawing some cutesy pictures of her. Or of Japanese warlords, whatever works. For Ichika, I like the idea that she has a lesbian awakening sometime during her acting career. There's a quick moment in the movie where she's shown kissing another woman for a scene in a film. And while she says kissing is just sometimes part of the job in acting, I like the idea that she could start a relationship with another actress on set. Hey, I'm a trans lesbian, you can't expect me to say they should all be straight. This 3-second still was fan service for me specifically. For Itsuki, it may seem a bit on the nose, but what if she ends up with a chef? Her love of food is one of her defining characteristics, at least early on in the series. Plus, with 2 of her sisters getting into cooking as a profession, she could additionally find that as a way to admire and relate to this person. And maybe they also have a bubbly personality that reminds Itsuki of Futuro's little sister Raiha, since their friendship was one of the most prominent ones outside of the main 6. And yes, I am leaving it open as to whether she could end up with a girl or a boy, because I like the possibility that at least one of the quintuplets is bi. Also, Itsuki's English voice actress Tina Ballard plays the character Yu Koito in the Yuri anime Bloom Into You, so just roll with it. But that's just my take on things. I know many fans did not like the ending of this story, and I think that's valid. This was less a video defending the ending because, honestly, it wasn't what I wanted either. This was more of a coping mechanism to try to rationalize it and come to peace with a decision made by a fictional character. Because otherwise, this is a show that I absolutely fell in love with, and I didn't want my final impression of it to be too sour. Huge thank you to my girlfriend Yoshi Gamer Girl for giving me the perspectives that inspired me to make this video, even though it's on a topic I ordinarily don't talk about in my videos. As they say, love makes you do crazy things. Thanks for watching, and take care.